In this video, we are going to continue working on learning blueprints. We're basically going to make our trigger actually do something other than just a visual effect. We're going to make a door. The door is going to open, and then we are going to be able to walk outside of our door. Let's go ahead and get started. Well, the first thing we might want to do is actually make a door. So let's see what we can do. Inside of our starter content, under architecture, well, we have some door frames, but we need a door. Under props, well, we have a door and we have a door frame. So we're good to go there. Now, we don't want to just put the door and the door frame into our scene because we're going to want to actually have the door do something. When you have things doing things, if you have the ability to keep them contained, for example, we could put this door frame here, and then we could put the door in the door frame, and then we could have the button talk to just the door, not even talk to the door, I guess technically get a reference to the door, and then rotate the door when we want to do it. We could have it do all of that, or we could have the button simply tell the door to open, and then the door can do whatever the hell it wants. It could open, it could throw fireworks, which actually we're going to do fireworks. It could explode, it could play a sound. Actually, I'm going to have it play a sound too. So we're going to have the door do a whole bunch of stuff. And by keeping them separate, we could have the trigger not care what the door does. It's just going to tell it to do its open script, and then the door is going to do its stuff. So you don't have to hard code too much into separate things. You want to keep them separate. They're separate. So let's do that. Let's do a door. We're going to want to make a new blueprint, and we'll call this one blueprint actor class, and we'll call this one BP door. I know, very ingenious, but it's a door. Hopefully you know what we're going to do now. We're going to call this one root for our scene, and we've replaced our default scene component with a new scene component. We need a door. So our door is going to consist of two things, a door frame and a door itself. Both of them are static meshes. We'll just go ahead and add two static meshes. We'll name this one door frame. We'll name this one door. Organization is very helpful. Now there's two ways of doing this. We can put the door in the frame, or we can keep them separately. It's not going to matter, but I'm going to put the door under the door frame. Now I need a door frame. Let's look for door, and we have door frame. Let's look for door, and we have door. There we go. So what I've done is I've made my first static mesh, the actual static mesh inside of it, assigned to the door frame, and then the door itself I've assigned to the door. Now this is actually working exactly like it should. The door itself is going to open from here. If we go to rotate and we rotate, it's going to pivot where it should. We actually want it to do that. However, did I keep that back to 0? Yeah, I did. Okay, let's just reset that anyways. The door frame, its pivot point is dead in the middle. So that's why when I put these both in, they kind of lined up like this. Not a problem. Take the door, move the door over like that, and you notice we have an issue. The door and the door frame are not in multiples of 10. Super simple. We'll go to our grid snap to 5, snap it over 5, and change our grid snap back to 10. There we go. Our door is now centered. If we were to go to rotate and rotate, there we go. Look at that. We got our door opening and closing. That's pretty cool. Now, hopefully, we'll go and hit reset first. Hopefully you can figure out exactly what we're going to do next. We're going to want the door to open. Well, it's just movement. We've already done movement before with our button. We're going to do the same exact thing. Let's go into our event graph. Let's get rid of the tick and the overlap because we don't need it, and we don't need to begin play. Okay, well then where are we going to open this door at? How are we going to know how to open it? Well, we're going to make a custom event. A custom event is just like these other events here, except we are making it and naming it, and it's not one that comes for free. Super simple. Right click, type in custom event, and add custom event. We can now name it. I'm going to make it open door so we know exactly what it does. and go ahead and compile and save. There we go. Whenever this event is called, this node is going to execute. So what do we want to do? Well, let's go into here, and we're basically going to do the same thing. We're going to have a timeline, and then instead of the location, we're going to do the rotation. Now that we know what we're going to do, let's do it. Add timeline. We'll call this one door open timeline. We're going to do this one over 2 seconds because I like 2 seconds. And again, it's going to be a float. Now, why do I know it's going to be a float? Well, if we go to our door itself, which this happens to me all the time. I always forget the timelines part of here. And we go to our viewport. What are we doing? We are just simply rotating on our z-axis. If you look here, we have 0 rotation, and z rotation. And when I rotate, you'll notice it's rotating. So let's figure out our values. 0 is closed, and I like 130 for open. So we're going to go between 0 and negative 130. The nice thing about this is our x and our y are both 0. It's going to make it easier this time. Go back to our timeline. 2 seconds. First one key, last one key. We're only going to have 2. First key, 0 time, 0 rotation. Last key, 2 seconds, negative 130 rotation. Now this will give us a smooth, assuming I did that right, there we go, a smooth value between 0 and negative 130. If you'd like a not smooth, let's say for example we want to open, what would be a good way of doing this? We'll have it open slowly at first and then slam open for the last part. So let's just add another key in here. Let's right click, add another key, and we'll set this somewhere around here. Let's set it at, let's say the first 3/4 of a second, 0.75 seconds. It's going to go ahead and it's going to not change very much. So we'll go with 30 degrees. So the first 3/4 of a second will go from 0 to 30 degrees. And then that last 1 1/4 second will go much steeper. So now we're going to have a slight and then a quick. And all we did was change our curved angle basically. Now we could go in here and we could change this to something like auto. And then we could go up to our first one here. Change this one to auto. We go to the last one here. Change this one to auto. I'm moving by holding down the right mouse button. I'm zooming in and out with the zoom button. Let's go ahead and fit it back to the screen. And there we go. And you notice we now have a more smoother curve. And let's say we wanted to make it even more drastic. We could do something like this. You could technically even do something like this, and it will basically open inwards a little bit and then go back out. But I don't think we quite want that. So let's just go with something like that. And there we go. We have a nice smooth curve and then a boom. So it'll smoothly open and smoothly close. And all that's doing is changing the values at each of our points. See how we have different values here for numbers? We'll go and close that. And now we have our door open. Oh, we didn't name it. That's not good. Open it back up. This right here is your track name. If you click on it, it'll go ahead and let you rename it. And we're going to name this one. This is our rotation Z. So that way we know easily what it is. Let's go ahead and hook this up to play from start. And let's go ahead and what are we going to do on update? Well, we're going to set actor rotation. And we'll do set actor rotation. Now you may notice we have 3 different ones here. We have location and rotation. Well, hopefully that's pretty simple. That's the location and the rotation. We only want rotation. We have relative rotation, and then we have normal rotation. Relative rotation is when you're using parents and children. The relative rotation of a child can be different than their rotation in the world itself. Basically, we have the door itself, and it has a rotation value here. Let me set it back to 0. Its value relative to its parent may be different than its value relative to the root if these are all different. So if I rotate this 45 degrees and I rotate this 45 degrees, then the world rotation it'll add it up, will be 90 because it's 90 degrees total. But its relative rotation is only 45 degrees to its parent. What we care about is the world rotation or the relative rotation. Either one works. I'm going to go with the world rotation. The nice thing is you can try one, and if it doesn't work, you can just try another one. That's all you have to do. We need to make sure we set the rotation of the door, though. So, actually, that was another funny part. If I had done set actor rotation, we're going to set the rotation on the root. What do you think is going to happen? Well, let's find out. Let's go to our... It would change the rotation of the entire thing, and my frame and door would change. So we just want to change the rotation on the door itself. That's funny. So let's actually grab our door, and we'll do set rotation, and we'll set the world rotation of just the door. Hopefully you know what we can do here. We can split, and we're going to change just our Z. The nice thing is our roll and our yaw, our X and our Y, are going to maintain 0. We don't have to worry about changing those. There we go. Now let's go ahead and test this. How are we going to test it? Well, we know we have a begin play. Begin play. All we have to do on the begin play is call open door. And what this is going to do is when this is put into the world and the game starts, it's going to go ahead and call open door, and it should rotate our door open. Let's add it to the world. That would be smart. Put it in the world. We'll rotate it 90 degrees. There we go. And let's go ahead and go to our top perspective. F to frame. Let's go ahead and move it into place. I'm pretty sure it's right there. Yep, there we go. There's our door. Let's hit play and let's look. Oh, that did not work right. So, what went wrong there? Well, it's a good question. I have to say it's backwards. So, let's go to our door. Let's go to our viewport, and let's see if we can figure out what is going wrong here. The X value right here, that indicates forward. So when we are placing our door here, our forward value is going to technically be out. If we were to, there we go. It's going to be like that. Let's hit play. And you'll see an issue. Okay, so we need to basically change the door itself. If we were to change this and rotate this out like this, 180 degrees, and go like that, and hit play, what's going to happen? Oh, that was pretty cool. The whole door itself changed the wrong way. Let's fix this back. Okay, so what is our issue here? Our door is... I have a feeling... Did I change the rotation wrong? No, right? Is the whole door changing? The whole door seems like it's changing, right? Let's make this... Okay, let's make this work on the trigger so we can actually test it. We have a small little bug with our rotation, and we're going to work on fixing that. But let's make... Okay, you know what? This is really silly of me. Let's just take our player and move our player closer. This is also a nice way of learning something else. If you're moving something and you hold down the shift key, this will now move the camera with you. So see how when I'm doing this, it's kind of annoying. I have to stop, move, stop, hold down shift, and move. And now we're going to drag the entire thing with me. Now we can go back down to here, drop them into place, and hit play. And we'll see what our door is doing. And it looks like our door is changing position on start. So if we go into our event graph, and we set our world rotation to 0, 0. Here, let's just not do anything. Let's just set the rotation, okay? And hit play. We have a problem. So that is our rotation at 0, 0, 0. That is a problem. So our world rotation of this item right here, because our frame is different because we've rotated everything. Yeah, see? So this is where one of those relative things comes in. Remember when we dropped our door in here? Let's go ahead and hit play, and you'll see what happens. You'll notice our doors are matching that direction. Once we rotate this right here, our door now has a different world rotation. The rotation of the door itself in here is going to be different. Internally, it's going to be offset by the 90 degrees. So when we hit play and we say, hey, set your world rotation to 0, it's like, okay, I've changed. That's one of those instances where our world and our relative are different. So if we drag our door in here and we set relative rotation like this and split this apart. Now I'm keeping both of these in here so we can actually test them. So we'll move this one over, plug our update into here, plug our Z into here, and we'll hit play. There we go. Look at that. Now our doors are opening up properly. And it shouldn't matter if the doors are that direction or if our doors are, let's go like even that. They should rotate properly. There we go. See? So what we've done is we've determined that the world rotation, when we're turning something relative to something else, is incorrect. We don't want this rotated in the world. We want it rotated locally, basically. The relative means local. It means, hey, however this is set up, let's go ahead and rotate just this part by itself, all relative to everything else inside of this actor. So I've gone ahead and replaced the set rotation with the set relative rotation. We've plugged in our Z and our target. Now when we hit play, we can see our doors opening properly. Go back into our scene, delete the extra one. Let's keep our player here. That way we can easily go back and do the testing. And you'll notice that the door opens, which is probably what we don't want. We don't need this anymore. And now our event is set up. Let's go ahead and play it again, and we're going to run into an issue. Well, we're literally going to not run into an issue. Our door has no collision. Well, this is one of those cases where the content creation artist, our lovely epic artist, decided not to give us collision on the door or the door frame. Technically the door. If we're looking at these things, let's look at this couch, for example. Look at the yellow on the overhead, the pop-up. It says collision prims or primitives 0. There's no collision. If we look at our door frame, well, we actually do have collision on the door frame. If you look, you'll see 3. If we open up our door frame, click on collision, you can actually see we do have collision, which is this, which is really annoying. It's really annoying because it shows the stupid mesh, but this light blue border that goes around is our collision volume. We have one set up on the top, one set up on the left leg, left pillar, and one set up on the right pillar. So we have 3 collision primitives. So the door frame itself can be walked through. If we pull up the door itself and we pull up the collisions, you'll notice there is nothing for collision. We have this really annoying set of polygons, but we don't have the actual collision itself. Now, this is pretty simple. Like we did for everything else, collisions, we're going to add a simple box collision, and all it's going to do is put a collision around the door itself. It's going to encompass the entire thing. We'll save it, we'll hit play, and there we go. We can now no longer walk out the door. We've saved our player from plummeting to their death. Okay, so we have a door. We have a door that opens. We have a door that can collide with. How do we actually make the door do anything? Well, we need this button to talk to this door. So this button needs to know about that door. It needs to know about it somehow. There's a few different ways of doing this. Your level blueprint, this is a blueprint under level blueprints. It is the blueprint for the level itself. We will play with this later when we work with sequencers, but this is something that is tied to the level itself. While it is handy, and you could do things such as, let me click on my door right here, and let me go into my level blueprint, and let me go right click, and I can create a reference to my door. And now I know of that door in this level. While that's handy, it connects things together in a way you may not want. That means that any of the code you write in there will only apply to this door. But let's say we wanted to make it more generic. Let's say we wanted this button to know somehow which door it should talk to. But that door is designed, or that door is set up by the designer at runtime. Runtime, design time. We'll go ahead and do that. In our button, if we can find our button, which actually you can go here and do edit BP trigger. Here's our button. It needs to know about the door. Well, we have variables, and variables hold things. They hold references. So let's make a reference to our door. We'll do a new variable. We'll call this door to trigger. Make it, verbose. Make it so you know what it does. And then we're going to change the type. There's a few different ways. Over here, we can change the variable type, or I like doing this way. It's kind of cool. Just click on the little icon, and it'll give you the list of all the variables. What type of variable is this going to be? I want this to be specific. I only want the player, the designer, to select my door blueprints. I want to know specifically which door it's going to talk to. So it's pretty simple. We'll type in door. We'll get an object type of BP door, our door we've created, and then we're going to want a reference to a door. A reference to an instanced object of type door. That means this will be a reference to an object that exists. We'll click reference, we'll save it out, and we'll be done. And you'll notice we now have a default value in here of none. You can't set it. You have to select it. How do we select it? Well, if we go back to our trigger, and we don't have any way of selecting it. Why don't we have any way of selecting it? While we've told it to store a reference to the variable, we haven't allowed anyone to do anything with it. In order to allow it, you need to make it editable or public. It's a little checkbox called editable, or it's a little eyeball. Same thing, just turns it on or off. Now you notice that it turns it yellow. Yellow just means you have no text in here. You're basically not being nice. You're allowing someone to change it, but you're not telling them what they're doing. So if we go over to tooltip and we go which door to open when triggered, and we spell it properly, now it's going to turn green, and the engine's going to go, you know what? Thank you. You were very nice to tell them what to do. Now if we go back out, we click on our trigger, it's going to have a section called default, because we're too lazy to change it, asking it which door to open when triggered, and allowing you to choose anything of BP door. Now we only have one door in our scene, so this is pretty simple. But let's say props, door, and door. We have multiple doors. When you're in here, you can actually choose from any door that's been created. So this is setting up a connection between this trigger and we'll call this one door left. We'll call this one door right. And we'll just call this one door exit. There we go. So now when we're setting up this blueprint, we know that we are connected to door exit, which is this door here. If we wanted this button to open up that door, well, that's our door left. We set it to door left. And that's it. That is how you set up a connection between two things in a simple, easy manner. Now you notice when I go ahead and try to delete this, it's going to say, door left is referenced by another actor. Do you really want to delete it? We have a connection. Our trigger is connected to this door. When we hit yes, now our trigger is going to be like, I have no door. I don't know what to do. We'll go ahead and set it up to door exit, delete the other one, and we are done setting up our connection. This is useful when you want to set things up as design time. There are ways of doing this at runtime, such as getting all of our doors, or creating a door and then saving a reference to it. Since we're doing this at design time, maybe we want to have a couple more exits and different triggers for different doors. We're creating it in a modular fashion, and we're saying, hey, designer, boom, drop a trigger, drop a door, connect them together, you're good to go. You could even do extra stuff like physically creating a spline or a connection between the two so you can look at it in the scene. That's extra stuff. Now that we have a door to trigger, we need to actually do something with that door. Let's go back to our trigger. And when I said we were too lazy to change the category, that's just right here. We'll do this called setup. That would be smart. So now if someone was to drop a trigger into our scene, they have a section called setup, and they can know they need to do stuff in here. You can name that to something very big like, yo, designer, make sure you set these things up. Going back to our trigger, now that I'm off that tangent, we need to do our open door event to our door. Now we have a door to trigger. And where do we want to open our door at? Well, after we have gone down, after we've ran our timeline and our button has gone all the way down, it's going to finish. We'll drag off of here, and we're going to now want to open the door. If I was to do open door, well, nothing's going to happen. We have a door. We have an event called open door. We have a reference to the door. So why is nothing opening? Maybe it's content sensitivity. Open door. And we'll do uncheck context sensitivity. And you actually, I should not have done that. That was kind of cheating. Here, let's go back to button. Here, let's do this again. Open door. And you'll find nothing again. But if we do context sensitive, you'll find a couple different things. You'll find our timelines. And then you'll find open door. Target is BP door. So if we uncheck context sensitivity, we can get access to it. Boom, open door. We go ahead and compile. We'll get our error. Hopefully you know why we have an error. We're telling it to open door. We're telling it the target is a blueprint of door. But we're not telling it which target to open. We need an actual connection. Well, we do have one here. We can drag it in, drop it, and compile. And now what's going to happen is when we finish, we're going to go, hey, door to trigger. This door right here, which is a reference to this door right here. We're going to say, hey, why don't you go ahead and run the open door code that you have, that you know about. And that door is going to be like open door code. Oh, I do have open door code. Well, what are we going to do? Well, let's open the door. So it's a connection. It's a reference between the two. And if I run it, hopefully we'll see it. We'll go over to our button. Sneakily over here and click on it, down, and door opens. Now we're going to have an issue. We can't walk through the door. That's because of our collision. And it's actually funny because of the collision. We'll correct this in a second. But as you'll notice, our button works. It goes down, it talks to our door, and our door opens. Back to what I meant earlier in regards to keeping things modular. Let's say, for example, we had well, you know what? Why not? This is kind of silly. We'll take another door here. And we'll put this door right here. There we go. There's a door. Now we can't walk through. Now we're stuck. Oh, actually, we're stuck going this way. Oh, that's actually really funny. Let's put our character back in. Here. And we'll go ahead and move him over this way. Move him back up. Move him back over, drop him to the ground, and hit play. Okay, so now we're stuck back up here. If I want to drop in a trigger right here, I will tell it that trigger we want, let's name this door, let's see, room 1 door. Naming is always good. Click on our trigger, tell it room 1 door, and hit play. We can't get out. We click on this button, and it goes down. Our door opens. We're stuck still, of course, because we haven't fixed that. There's a few things here. I'll discuss them and explain what happened. But what you saw, what I was trying to basically explain was we were very easily able to take this button, connect it to a specific instance of something, and have it talk to each other and do something. So stepping on this button opens this door. Stepping on this button opens this door. They are connected to each other. They are referenced to each other. That's kind of important when you're working on things. If, for example, you were wanting to make a light turn on and you have a light in your scene and you have a button that you click on, your button needs to know about that light. It needs to know about that specific light. You can't just say, hey, light. Like, for example, in here, in my trigger. This is important. This is why I'm reiterating this. This is a common issue. You can't just say, hey, door open, and have door to trigger, for example, set up as nothing. If we were to go into here and change this to none and run through here again and step on this and go down, nothing's happening. And we're going to get an error. We're going to get the error that says accessed none trying to read property door trigger. I'm confused. What do you mean? I have a door to trigger right here and it's a BP door and I only have one door in my scene, so why is my BP door not opening? It's because, again, and hopefully you know exactly what I'm going to say. This door to trigger is a variable, a reference, a holder, a container to something. And until you set that something up, it's nothing. So when we're doing this and we are saying, okay, now this variable holds a reference to this exact door, now it can talk to it and it can go, hey, Mr. Door, go ahead and do this. Go ahead and run your open door code. And what that's doing is saying, hey, door trigger, yes. Do you have any open door code? I do have open door code. Okay, run the open door code on this door trigger. Okay, I'm going to run the open door code on this exact door trigger. But on this door, the BP door. And there we go. So if we were to run this again, of course, always double check after you break stuff. Make sure it works again. There's our door. Okay, wrapping this up, let's get some collision in there. Let's fix our collision. Okay, so if we were to take our door and we were to remove our collision, we're going to find that we can actually go out of the door. The problem is not the door frame. The door frame's fine. It's this door. It's this little overlapping edge of the door that's preventing the size of our character. If we were to go back into our door and add collision and save it, and we were to run this, and we were to show collision again, it is this little bit of overlapping door that our character cannot quite get past on the left-hand side. It's just a little bit too big. The nice thing is there's a really simple way of solving this. Don't think about it too much. If you're doing this as a professional game, you'd probably make your door a little wider, your frame a little wider, and then you can make your door maybe collision smaller, and you could work for this. But you know what? 90% of the time, it's smoke and mirrors and magic, and your player's not even going to notice stuff. What we're going to do is simply do pretty much what we did with the trigger with the collision on the door itself once we're done opening it. So here's our door. Here's our timeline to open it. Let's go over here. We need our door itself. And we're going to collision. Nice thing is everything's context sensitive. Let's go with set collision enabled. Hook this up to our finished. And we'll tell it no collision on the door. Let's add a reroute node in here just because we can. Move this over. Move this over. Nice clean little graph here. There we go. And what's going to happen is once we finish opening the door, we're going to go ahead and set collision on this door enabled to no collision. Here's our options. Query, physics, no collision. No collision. Go ahead and hit run. We'll run through here. It'll close. We'll go through, and now we'll be able to walk through completely and I'll fall off. We now no longer have collision on the door itself once it's opened all the way. See if we were to trigger this and run really quickly, we'll find I'm stuck until the door's open all the way. Then I can roll all the way through. And we're done. That's going to be the door itself opening. Let's do a little bit of an indicator just to really quickly wrap this up. Give it a little bit of a sound. The nice thing is the door is going to trigger the sound to indicate that the door is open. That's a good question. Should the sound be on the trigger indicating the door opening, or should the door have the sound? I'm trying to think of the old Zelda games, And it was, you push the button, you hear doo 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 doo, and it indicates you that something's happening. So let's put the sound on the trigger. That way we know to look around and something's happening. We'll go ahead and click on our trigger, edit the trigger. We'll put the sound right here. So we're going to go ahead and add a reroute node. Move these over. The nice thing is, if you are dragging off an execute wire and type in a node, it will insert it. So if I drag off of here and type in play sound 2D and I click, you'll notice it automatically connects the intro and the outro. So now we have a play sound 2D. There's a couple sounds that come with this. I don't like any of them. I'm going to show you a way to get more stuff. Inside of your content browser, you have all the content that comes with the game. Now, by default, I've added the starter content, the third party. But in addition to that, there's actually more content that comes with the engine itself. All of these icons, the sounds when you start and stop the editor, and things like that, and compiling, are all included with the engine, but they're hidden. If we go to View Options, Show Engine Content, we're going to get two more folders here. Engine Content, Engine C++ classes. And there's some really cool textures in there and materials, plus some sounds that I like to use just for indication. And they're, they come with it, why not? But where are they at? Well, we can spend a long time looking through a long list, or we'll be intelligent and we'll use a filter. Filters and audio, right? Audio? Sounds, here we go. Audio, sounds. We'll click on sounds. And there we go. Now we have all of the sounds that come built in. The one I like is the compile success. There we go. Let me go and unmute my speakers and run this. Whoops, that's not running it. That's opening it. And right click play. That's one I like. There we go. It's a nice little sound. I don't know if you can hear it, but I like the compile success. What we're going to do is use this for our sound. If we go back into here and our play sound, we have the same options as before. We can use the asset we used, or we have our list. You'll notice now we have a lot more sounds because we have our engine content open. I'm going to go ahead and just click our arrow and use compile success. Now that I'm done, I can go back in and shut off engine content. All that does is visibly allow you to see the content. It doesn't actually prevent you. It just removes it from our browser. You'll also notice one other issue. When I did the filter for sounds, we have a ton more. Let's go ahead and do filters, reset, and that's going to clear them all out. Let's run this again. Now that our button is hooked up, once it goes down, we have a sound and the door opens. There we go. I'm going to mute my sound again. What we've done now is we've gone ahead and we've finished wrapping up the basic blueprint interaction. We can now make a trigger. We can do a little bit of movement. We can hook that trigger up to something else. We have a door that moves. We have a door and a trigger that have their own code, but they can talk to each other. We can play a little bit of a sound and an animation. We're going to spice it up a little bit. We're going to learn the basics of particles next and put in a little particle effect so that way you notice that the door is broken and then it'll disappear when we're done.